Hey guys, it's Chase. Welcome back to today's video. In this video, I want to go over a couple of different things. I talk about some tools, just some comments that you guys have left, and we're going to go over and fix my good friend's switch. It looks like it has a charging port bent pin, but we'll get to that in a minute. Sometimes when I go to plan a video, the videos usually don't come as planned. So the way it works is I'll have a device come into the shop, and I'll kind of make a decision whether I'm going to work on it or not. And for instance, just recently, like there was a video that I wish that I would have made, but it just didn't end up getting made. I had a Dell laptop that came in that had no power. So I found one of the main power rails shorted to ground. It hit like a 7 ohm short on that rail. So I injected 1.2 volts into the rail, and it would have like a 400 milliamp draw, which nothing was getting hot on the board. So I upped the voltage to 1.8 volts, and I started to get a higher draw, close to an amp. Still nothing really heating up, even though I figured you would see something at 1 amp. And then I jumped it up to 3 volts, and mind you, this is like a 19 volt circuit. I jumped it up to 3 volts. Then the capacitor ended up lighting up like a Christmas tree on the thermal camera. So I went ahead and I checked the capacitor, and the capacitor was 2 ohms to ground. Removed it out of the circuit, and the circuit had like 350 ohms to ground. So a higher resistance, which is typical and normal. Sometimes you can have like a low resistance to ground in a circuit and it still be fine, but I think that 7 ohms is a little too low, and like 2 ohms is like basically a dead short. So so before we wouldn't get a charge light that we see up here, and when you turn it on, the power button lights up, and we did not get that before. And of course it's booting. The power rails came in about in this area, and the cap was like somewhere down here, but yeah, it's working. So that's one video that I would have loved to make, but unfortunately it just doesn't always work like that. You have a device come in and you got to get it out really quick, and so it just doesn't end up getting recorded. And it makes me sad because that would have been a really great video. So, but I figured what we'll do with this video is we will fix the switch, and while I'm fixing the switch, I will discuss some of the comments that you guys left me. So we'll go through a couple of comments and we'll have a good time. I'm going to get this switch torn down to the board, and let's get started. Alright, so I had asked you guys on this post, I said, current situation, what you guys like to see in my next video? And you guys gave me a great response here. So this comment says, your parents' thought and support regarding your profession. So I would say my parents are very, very proud of my profession. I would say they fully support what I'm doing. Of course, my dad owns the shop here, and then I have this office space here in the back. So my dad fully supports what I'm doing, and then of course my mom definitely supports what I'm doing, and my wife supports me. So the response for doing this as a job is very, very good. Okay, this comment says, maybe something about your recording setup. I see a Nikon camera and your Trino microscope. What is your software setup? Thank you. Okay, so I have a Nikon D3500. That's what I use to record with the camera. And then as far as having the camera recording, I have it connected via HDMI that goes to an Elgato HD60 Pro HDMI capture card, and it goes through the PCIe slot on my computer. And then as far as the microscope, the way this works is, so the camera that you guys see through, let's see if we can get it a little focused here. All right, so the camera that you guys see through is a DSLR, so the lens does come off the camera, and the camera connects to this adapter here that goes from like the DSLR adapter to a lens that's like a reducer lens, and then it goes to the microscope that way. So I just have some red tape here that kind of holds it steady, because this will turn if not, and then you'll have the camera turning, and you don't want that. So typically I'll have the camera, I'll just take the lens off, and then I'll move the camera over here, and then that's how you guys can see through the microscope. So as far as software goes, I just use Game Capture HD. It's from Elgato, and that's just the program that I've been using for recording the HDMI in for the camera. So just that. So that would be it for that question. Okay, so I have one last question here, and I'll just answer this. It says share your repair tips or gadget repair tools. Right off the bat, my suggestion for most of that stuff, you can usually just pick up a screwdriver kit, something like this. This is what my wife got me years ago, and I still use it to this day. It does not have every single bit that you will use, but it has most of them. You could pick something up like this for like 30 bucks online, and I mean, I've been using it for like the last 3 years, so I mean, you can use a screwdriver kit, you know, just a cheap one on Amazon or eBay. Usually those will work. I have tested out some of the iFixit ProTech toolkits, and I would say the quality is definitely considerably better, but I feel like some of the bits, they need to be like filed down for them to fit the screws a little bit better. I've had some repair kits, like even this one, where I have to file down some of the bits for it to actually work in the screw, specifically like the Y000. And I've got a chance to mess around with a couple of ProTech toolkits, and they're all like that. So you're going to need to file down some of the bits if you want them to work. As far as my tweezers go, right now I would like to invest in more tweezers. I just have a 2 UUL pair of tweezers for like really, really fine stuff. I like to use these giant tweezers. I've had these for like probably 7 years. And I use these for HDMI ports because it keeps my hand away while I'm heating it up and just lift it off, you know. And then I like to use these black ones that you get with basically any repair kit. I mean, any repair kit that you usually will buy, you'll find black tweezers. And I like using these. I mean, you know, these are really good in my opinion. They just seem to work, and you know, no issues. I've been using those for multiple, like, I've probably been using these probably for at least 4 or 5 years. Not this particular pair, but probably other pairs in the past. One other thing I use is an X-Acto knife. You literally can get these just about anywhere, and the blades, I use these for scraping the traces when I do trace repair. I've got trace repair wire here that I use to just run jumpers. I use this double-ended brush I got from northridgefix.com. This is really good for cleaning corrosion. And this brush, I'm not like a huge fan of this brush, but it does work for some things. I prefer to use like a regular toothbrush. You can get this at the dollar store, and use some flux, and you just clean off the board, and it looks real nice. And then if you want the board to look super nice, then you just use a Q-tip, and you just, you know, you really get in there and you clean it up, you know. So I do like to use a solder holder because I went without using one for a long time, and I regretted it like every day because of it. I mean, it's a great investment, and it just makes sense to have one. You know, when I started fixing, if you go back to some of my really old videos from a couple of years ago, you'll see that I had like a different microscope and the way I had it set up. You can kind of check out some of those videos and kind of go through them, but and kind of see my journey. But of course, I didn't always have this microscope. I actually talked to my wife, and I asked her, I said, hey, if it's cool, if I could save up money and, you know, by doing repairs and invest it into a nice scope, and she told me I could. So the reason this scope is even here is because I save up the money from repairs, whether it was like HDMI ports, USB-C ports, no power, etc. I mean, there's just across the board. So, you know, obviously, you know, you do what you can with the tools that you have, and then you invest in higher end tools, and it will literally make your life easier, your job will be easier. Eventually the camera would just stop recording, and I couldn't change anything on it. It would just stop, and then I'd be like talking to myself for like 20 minutes, and then I realized the camera on the microscope isn't recording, or I'm not, you know, doing whatever, and I'm like, ah. So I think I covered like most of what I use as far as like just random tools, but every tool on my bench has a purpose and has a reason for being here. So if you guys have any questions for a specific tool that you're asking, hey, Chase, why is this on your bench? Why do you use this? I can definitely fill you in and let you know why it's there and why I use it. And I definitely don't want to forget the switch is charging at 0.67 amps, 15 volts, and it's working. And there it is. All right. So that will be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.